All right, let's dive right in. Today we are tackling a huge problem that so many businesses face, trying to predict future demand. We're going to explore why so many of these forecasts completely miss the mark, and, way more importantly, how we can build a much smarter strategy to deal with all that unpredictability. And it really all boils down to one critical question.
So just think about this for a second. What if the vast majority of your time, your money, your team's brain power, we're talking nearly 2/3 of your entire forecasting effort, was being spent on products that are, just by their very nature, impossible to predict? I mean, all that work, all that stress, potentially for nothing. It sounds nuts, right? But as we're about to see, for a lot of companies, this is the reality. Now, to really get our heads around this, we need to understand one key idea: forecastability. You can just think of it like a predictability score for a product. Now, it's technically measured with something called the coefficient of variation, or COVI, but you don't need to worry about the math. All you really have to know is this: if the COVI is high, demand is all over the place. It's unpredictable. If the COVI is low, demand is stable, and it's much, much easier to forecast. That's it. That's the secret decoder rank for everything we're about to look at. Okay, so now that we've got our tool, let's put it to work. The very first thing we have to do is take a hard look at the entire product portfolio and see what we're actually up against. How big is this challenge of unpredictability really?
And wow, this chart just lays it all out there, doesn't it? This is a forecastability histogram for over 3,800 products. See that little green bar way over on the left? Those are the good ones: stable, predictable, easy to forecast. But now, look at the rest of the chart. Those huge red bars stretching out to the right, that, my friends, is what we call the long tail. A massive, massive number of products with demand that is just wildly unpredictable.
And when you add up all those red bars, you get this number: 62%. Let that sink in. A staggering 62% of the entire product portfolio is officially classified as poorly forecastable. That's almost 2 out of every 3 products. This isn't some small, fringe problem. It is the main feature of this business. Okay, so we found this monster long tail. But what's actually in it? We need to perform an autopsy on this thing to figure out what makes it tick. Is it just a bunch of high-volume chaos, or is there something else going on?
And this matrix here is the perfect tool for the job. It maps out every single product based on 2 things: sales volume on the vertical axis, that's your A, B, and C, and predictability on the horizontal axis, that's X, Y, and Z. Now, your eyes should go immediately to that bottom right corner, the CZ box. That's the low-volume, highly unpredictable stuff. And look, it contains 2,317 products. That is 60% of the entire portfolio, all jammed into that one chaotic little box.
But wait, this is where it gets really interesting. This is the same chart, but now it's showing the average monthly sales volume for each of those boxes. And would you look at that, CZ segment again. Even though it's holding 60% of all the products, it has the absolute lowest average sales volume, just 1 single ton per month. So we're dealing with a gigantic number of products that barely even sell. So why? Why is the volume so low and the demand so jumpy? Well, this chart on intermittency gives us a massive clue. Intermittency is really just a fancy way of asking, how often does a product actually sell? Is it a regular thing, every month? Or is it more like once in a blue moon? And the difference is just night and day. Take a look at the predictable X items. They sell 97% of the time. I mean, that's basically every single month. But the unpredictable Z items, they only sell 31% of the time. That means for about 8 months every year, there is 0 sales, nothing. The long tail isn't just low volume. For most of the year, it's a ghost town. So let's recap. We have a portfolio that's dominated by these low-volume, super sporadic items. The next logical question is, so what? Who cares? What's the actual real-world impact on the business? Let's take a look at the real cost of all this unpredictability.
And this is where it all comes crashing together. This chart shows the actual forecast accuracy over the last 4 months. The predictable X column on the left, it has some accuracy, sure, though you can see it's kind of slipping. But now, look at that massive CZ segment, the one with 60% of our products. The forecast accuracy isn't just bad, it's 0, a flat 0, for 4 straight months.
There's really no other way to put it. What this data is screaming at us is this: we are flying completely blind on 2,317 products. We are spending time, energy, and money to create forecasts that have absolutely 0 connection to what actually happens. It is a total failure of the process for the majority of the things we're supposed to be managing. And hey, with zero accuracy, you'd expect the error to be huge, right? And this chart shows that error in tons. As we'd guess, that CZ long tail is responsible for a massive piece of the total error. But look closer. There's another trend showing up here, and frankly, it's even more worrying. Let's just zoom in on October, the most recent month. The entire chaotic, unpredictable long tail, that's the CZ segment, it was responsible for 22% of the total error. Okay. But now you'd expect our core business, the stable, predictable AX products, to be a tiny sliver in comparison. But look, it also contributed 22% of the error. Our most stable products are now generating just as much error as our most chaotic ones. The problem is spreading. It's bleeding from the tail into the very core of the business. This just begs a huge question. Why? Why is the portfolio so ridiculously complex and getting even harder to manage? We have to dig one level deeper to find the real root cause of all this volatility and error.
And the root cause, well, it can pretty much be boiled down to this one single shocking number, 80%. So what is that? That's the percentage of products in this entire portfolio that are sold to just one single customer.
This analysis just confirms it. The huge majority of these products are incredibly specialized, made for maybe a couple of customers or, in most cases, just one. This isn't a stable, shared portfolio. It is a collection of thousands of individual, one-off relationships. And that right there is the source of the volatile, intermittent demand we saw from the very beginning.
Okay, so we've diagnosed the problem, we've seen the painful consequences, and we have found the root cause. Now for the most important part. What do we do about it? The answer isn't some fancier algorithm. It's a smarter, segmented strategy that moves us away from trying to predict everything and towards creating the right policy for each type of product. And this is exactly what that strategy looks like. It's the same matrix we've been using all along, but now, instead of just analyzing data, it's filled with recommended actions. The big idea here is to stop treating every product the same way. It's all about shifting our effort away from useless prediction and towards smart, targeted management.
So let's break it down. For our high-importance A items, our bread and butter, we tailor the approach. For the super predictable ones, the AX items, we just let the statistical models do their thing and only review them if an alert pops up. For the ones in the middle, AY, we use a combined approach, getting input from both stats and sales. And for those critical but volatile AZ items, we lean almost entirely on the sales team's gut feel and market intelligence. High importance gets high targeted attention.
And now for the big one, that chaotic long tail. For the more predictable C items, we just automate everything. But for that massive CZ segment, the recommendation is radical, but it's completely logical. Stop forecasting. Just stop. The effort gives us zero accuracy. Instead, we shift all that focus to supply strategy. We either make the product to order when a customer asks for it, or we strategically decide to hold a bit of inventory. We manage the risk instead of trying to predict the unpredictable. And that really brings us to the ultimate lesson from all of this. For a huge part of any business, the goal shouldn't be to chase after some perfect, magical forecast that you're never going to get. The goal is to develop a smarter, segmented strategy that accepts reality and puts your precious time and effort where it can actually make a difference. So, I'll leave you with this one question to think about for your own work. Take a really hard look at your business and ask yourself, which part are you trying and probably failing to predict? And which part should you just be managing with the smarter policy instead? Finding the answer to that, well, that could change everything.